Good morning, afternoon, and night. Geis King here, and I hope everything is going alright. Welcome to another episode of Draw and Jaw, the show where I talk about whatever the hell Michigan I want to talk about. Oh boy, folks, this one was going to be an absolute disaster. I was initially going to share one of my more disturbingly uncomfortable anecdotes. I actually recorded the audio. It's done, but I started to feel a little ill toward the end, and when I played it back to check it, it was horrifying. Trust me when I say it was not a cute, haha, oh, these crazy internet people story. I could not release that particular horror show. It was absolutely nothing I personally did, but the whole debacle was because of the negligence and profound lapse in judgment of another artist that I do not associate with these days. It was horrible. I'll just leave that there and talk about something that isn't morally and legally reprehensible. So instead of summoning a SWAT team to my door, we'll do something a little different. Something that'll wash that foul taste out of my mouth after that previous recording session. But before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to the super talented Gods for lending me Toddy, the subject of the draw aspect of this video. I greatly enjoy her misadventures and her seemingly supernatural inability to attract the sexual attention of men. I just love that. I just love the shenanigans that can ensue with that character premise. It's so much fun to play with, and I think this is my fourth time working with her. Yeah, I think that's it, the fourth. Now, let's get to the meat of this thing. I'm just going to sing the praises of a couple artist friends of mine, a couple guys who inspire me to do better, inspire me creatively, and remind me that I don't completely blow at this art thing. Being an artist, in the vast desert wasteland that is the internet, you meet all sorts, and I can't properly tell this story without talking about a fine hombre I met out in the wastes near more than a decade ago. An artist who goes by the nom de guerre of De Moria. Now, Day is quite the talented artist. It's clear that he injects a certain level of thought and passion into his pieces. He's not an artist who simply pumps out fan art of whatever girl Capcom or Nintendo just came up with. Nor will you see him doing a done-to-death meme. Don't get me wrong, I'm not turning my nose up at the way people want to do their art or what they want to do with it. I totally understand it from a monetary perspective, but from a creative point of view, it leaves me just feeling a little numb. I'm really to the point where I see a piece of work and I can acknowledge it was skillfully done, but sometimes I get so utterly bored with the subject that I can't even be bothered with it. There is no lack of understanding about a meme, a challenge, or anything else. I get it. But no thank you to another hyper-polished Chun-Li in the same pose that has been done thousands of times before. No judgment. I just have no patience for it anymore. It's just kind of boring to me. But this is the reason why I appreciate artists like Gots and De Moria. They do their own thing, and it usually comes out really great. I remember one of my earliest experiences with Day. It was way back when DeviantArt was still a functioning art community. And I mean an actual community, not this low attention span, quick consumption feed based nonsense. I actually used to stream pretty regularly, and one day Day dropped into the chat. Now, we'd been interacting with each other's art for a bit to that point, giving each other feedback and ideas, but we still weren't super familiar. Everything was going well in the stream. There were a handful of people watching and interacting with each other and myself in the chat. I'm merrily drawing away when, and we all get this, some random pops out of nowhere and gives the old, "You do free art of my OC now?" You know that one. The person who will request free art from you and 7,000 other artists without so much as a hello. Then they only stick around until you either do it or tell them no. Yeah, that guy. PSA, folks. You gotta treat your artist like a fine-ass classy lady. If you want to get in those art panties, at least greet her like she's a human being. Don't just twirl your finger and point to the floor with a grunt, fully expecting her to face away and drop to all fours to give you the go-ahead to mount up. I'm not an unreasonably expensive date, but I need a little foreplay, damn it. So I kindly and politely tell the guy that it wasn't a request stream. I was working on a specific set of images and would not be taking requests. I was cordial about it. So I just let it pass and continued talking to the others and working on what I was working on. It gets to the point where I finish up the first drawing I was working on and announced it to everyone before I started a new one. Well, wouldn't you know, Mr. Casual Art Hookup chimes in again after not saying a word to me or anyone else in the chat thus far, and he shoots a shot again. You do request now? Now, I was vastly more patient back then than I am now. I think I'm more irritated recounting this than I probably was at the time, but I have never had an appreciation of having to repeat something I have clearly stated in the first place, especially if it was in writing. I don't remember what I was going to type in response. I mean, it wasn't a voice stream, so we were all just typing. But I vividly remember my face heating up. So I put my pen tab down to give this guy another not so nice as the first reminder of what's going on. But the extra motion of setting down my tablet delayed me long enough for Day to chime in first. I can't recall the exact combination of words he used, but he let the guy have it. Not only did he beat me to my own dirty work, he drove the guy away. So instead of me having to get unpleasant in front of the whole chat, Day gets rid of the guy for me, and I get to laugh it off. That's when I knew I liked this guy. We've been bouncing art and ideas off of each other ever since. It helps that he's someone of substance and gives you a little more feedback than I want to suck her toes when there's a whole armor design above those toes. Most of the things I say about Day could also be said about my friend TangledSyntax. I can't tell you any exact moment that we clicked, but I guess it happened so organically that I didn't even notice that we were getting along so well at first. This guy does some pretty amazing work, this guy. Super detailed pieces without a ton of clutter or clashing elements. His stuff always tells a story, and you can tell that he injects a high level of care into his work as well. He also isn't an artist who does a ton of dime a dozen fan art, which I greatly appreciate. Like myself, he's mostly an OC man, and I absolutely love his OCs. I'm particularly fond of his Sylvia, and his Gina Duke is absolute marriage material. She's one of my favorites, and I love that Tangled just lets me go wild whenever I write for her or Sylvia. They're always a lot of fun to work with, and I don't think I've put more thought or detail into anyone else's characters as those two. I suppose I would be profoundly attracted to his character, since Tangled and I have this almost bizarrely in sync kinship. It seems unreal sometimes. We have very similar tastes, so similar in fact that he or I will make an obscure 2 or 3 word reference to some piece of media from 30 or 40 years back, and the other will instantly pick up on it. I'm absolutely serious. I'm not joking around. Literally last year, I mentioned to him that I was interested in buying an authentic M65 Army field jacket. Now, I've always loved the look and the utility of these jackets. I'd always see them in old movies and TV shows, and they always just looked so comfortable and durable and functional to me. I'd even drawn them on characters before. I've drawn Nene-chan in one like twice. Well, wouldn't you know, not only does Tangled have the same taste in army apparel of the late 1960s and early 1970s, he's already got one. I swear, if it wasn't for him already having experience with this, I probably would have bought my own either too big or too small, and they're not exactly in abundance in any size that you want. You kind of have to hunt one down if you want an authentic one. And I hadn't considered that they're made to fit over gear, and he was good enough to point that out to me. Now I have a badass M65 that fits perfectly. And that's the way it goes with us, back and forth. He even taught me his shading method. I'd stopped shading much after my version of Paint Shop went obsolete some years back, but Tangled was kind enough to give me the keys to his kingdom, and it's kind of working out for me. I need a little more practice with it, but I can see that turning into something. The man is way too hard on himself sometimes, but a genuinely talented artist and a great guy to have around. And oh man, I can't tell you how much better this positivity feels after that miserable recording I did before. That little chestnut will just be for a few ears as a lost episode or something, but I couldn't bring myself to attach that to Toddy, especially after Guts was nice enough to allow me to use her for this video. But there were some mildly amusing metaphors and a few chuckles in the original script, but the whole thing was just so gross that I had to scrap it. There was no way that was going out. I'd much rather talk about some friends than have to explain that social suicide again. But thank you everyone for joining me for another episode of Draw and Jaw. I'm gonna call it before I go too long, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter, still not saying X, and BlueSky. Drop a little something in the Ko-fi if you're feeling generous. Links are below. And and check out TangledSyntax on Twitter and BlueSky as well. I'll put those links down there too. I don't think Day has any other socials that I'm aware of. We just talk through Discord. I'll figure that out. And well, enjoy the rest of the drawing. I'll see you guys in the next one, and most importantly, draw my OC.